Hello and welcome to week 2 of Ministry and Culturally Diverse Teams. This week we're digging into cultural differences, particularly at the kind of level of values that do impact the relating together and working together in a multicultural team between team members. Cultural values. This is really the middle level of at least my understanding of culture. I use Paul Hebert's bucket diagram. You think of a big bucket and of water or something, and the top level being behaviours and things you can easily see, the way people kiss each other on each cheek to greet each other, or do something else to greet each other, that kind of stuff. And then the middle layer, underlying those behaviours that are easily observable, is a layer of values and beliefs and ideas. But particularly we're focusing in on cultural values, things that the ways people think about what is good, right, true and beautiful. And then underneath that is a level of assumptions, deep level assumptions that people are largely unconscious of, implicit assumptions that together form the worldview of the people. We're focusing in on mainly on that middle level of values, cultural values, and their impact on teams. And you're going to be thinking about some of those, explaining some of those, digging into a couple of them you want to dig into more and explain them to others. But then think about a team you know about or a part of, and which cultural value or values you think is particularly prominent in your interactions together, the differences between different members we're looking at really here on that value, and how that impacts relating together and communication and whatever else. You'll be, after sort of looking at more two introductory things, a chapter from our book on leading multicultural teams, and a chapter from the Tirmidhi's chapter on the impact of culture in multicultural teams. You'll be going to go to Erin Meyer's excellent book, The Culture Map, which explains in detail and has great stories illustrating what would be 8 or 9 key cultural values that affect people's working together. This is a great book. It's not a Christian book, but it's just great explanations and great stories and illustrations of the cultural values, as well as good explanation. So I like this book. Excellent. I'm going to introduce you to a few more books that you may come across in other units, and together possibly with this one, my favourite books on value differences across cultures. Foreign to Familiar. Really easy. You could read this if you haven't had much background in this, I would say get a copy of this on Kindle or whatever and read this. It'll take you 3 hours to read maybe. Look, there aren't many words on each page, and there aren't many pages. It's great. A guide to understanding hot and cold climate cultures. That may not be the greatest of subtitles, but it's just great. A simple, easy to read chapter on some key cultural differences, a great introduction to cultural differences in values. Cross-cultural connections, I think it's the second half of this book, second 2/3 of this book. Second 2/3. Anyway, is great on cultural values, nice short. This is Dwayne Elmer, great explanations. Cross-cultural connections, a good resource. Going deeper and a bit more academic, Effective Intercultural Communication has some great chapters on differences in cultural values, with quite a lot more research and research-based insights, I suppose, and referencing to academic articles and stuff like that. I think, at least it should. Yeah, it does. That's a thicker, bigger book, not as interesting to read, unfortunately, but good. And then this is one particular cultural value, honour shame cultures versus innocence guilt versus whatever your other options are. They do a good job, these two, Georges and Baker, on this particular dimension of cultural value. And It's just one example of digging into a particular area and explaining more. So anyway, I hope you have a great time this week.